The WNBA commissioner is under fire after making a huge mistake concerning player mistreatment and harassment. The WNBA commissioner is now in some hot water. Cathy Engelbert has been making headlines lately, and for all of the wrong reasons. Now, you would think that Engelbert would be on a victory tour after the league just had their best season ever. They broke viewership and merchandise records and are planning on an expansion of the league. However, her recent comments about Caitlin Clark and her role in the popularity of the league rub many fans the wrong way. And now something even more serious is going down. With more eyeballs, there comes the good and the bad. The bad is the hate. And not just hating on opposing players, but vile and visceral hate that caused many players to seek out help from the league commissioner. But they didn't get what they wanted. By the end of this video, you'll see why the WNBA is facing a major crisis. This first became a major issue when WNBA superstar Caitlin Clark didn't like what she heard from a fan late in the first quarter of a playoff loss at Connecticut. She motioned for officials to remove the man from his second row seat.
So she was going back and forth within the front row and pointing it out to the officials. And now the officials calling on security to take a look. As Clark and Bonner.
Now, this might not have seemed like a big deal, but it really was. Fans pointed out the double standards of how when Caitlin makes a complaint, the WNBA does something about it. But when black players voice their complaints, they are hit with the silent treatment. Now, this has called into question the leadership of Commissioner Cathy Engelbert, who contributed to the toxicity earlier this month when she kind of implied that racism is good for a growing business. She was asked during a CNBC interview what the league was doing to stay ahead of the darker and more menacing commentary from fan bases on social media. Instead of directly condemning the hate, she sidestepped the question by suggesting that the rivalry between Clark-Reese is good because it brought a lot of eyes and interest to the league, not to mention more corporate dollars to players. So right away, the WNBPA released a statement criticizing what the commissioner had said.
The commissioner should have provided to the very clear question regarding the racism, misogyny, and harassment experienced by the players. There is absolutely no place in sport or in life for the vile hate, racist language, homophobic comments, and misogynistic attacks our players are facing on social media.
That is a crazy statement to make, especially when Angel Reese has expressed how difficult it has been to deal with the vile hate she receives on a daily basis.
Playing each other since high school and knowing that there's never been beef. We've talked trash to each other in AAU. That it's been that. So I think it's really just the fans, her fans, the Iowa fans, now the Indiana fans that are they ride for her. And I respect that respectfully. But sometimes it's very disrespectful.
The rivalry between the two really started in college. Angel helped LSU win its first national championship, posting 15 points, 10 rebounds, and 5 assists in a 102-85 victory over Iowa in the title game. She won the tournament's Most Outstanding Player award and set the NCAA single-season record with 34 double-doubles. In the closing minutes of the game, Reese followed Caitlin Clark around the court and made a "you can't see me" gesture by waving her hand in front of her face, a taunt popularized by professional wrestler John Cena, before pointing to her ring finger in reference to a championship ring. Her actions came under scrutiny, with some journalists and analysts criticizing her for poor sportsmanship.
After the game was over, doing this to her, doing this. Find me one example in any sport of anybody after somebody wins a championship, confetti coming down, not in a close game, and find me a player stalking the best player on the other team. It does not exist. It does not happen. If a man did that, he would be called classless.
And ever since that moment, Angel has essentially become the villain. But that is only true if you're looking at things from Caitlin Clark's perspective. As far as Angel is concerned, she didn't do anything that extreme where she should be labeled a villain. At the same time, she felt as if Caitlin's fans had crossed the line with some of their taunts.
I think there's a lot of racism when it comes to it, and I don't believe she stands on any of that. But when you come, when it's behind your name, that's when a lot of people are like, oh, they think, oh, I don't like her because her fans are saying this. No, I don't believe in her heart that she has hatred towards me.
Caitlin has shown her disappointment about how much the talk is about other things and not the game itself. She believes that people should be spending more time talking about what's happening on the court rather than these sensational headlines and stories. But that hasn't stopped some fans from doing horrible things, like sending Angel death threats.
It's crazy, and it goes down to knowing, like, again, we are humans. Like, basketball is literally a game. Like, I promise you, it's literally a game. We have so much fun with it. But when it comes to death threats, when it comes to people finding, like, I'm talking about people have come down to my address, follow me home. Like, it's come down to that.
Now that is simply inexcusable. No matter how much you dislike a player, there is no reason to actually send death threats or follow them home and try to intimidate them. But some fans simply don't know right from wrong. Now this brings us back to the commissioner's ignorant remarks about how such rivalries are good for business, even if they bring negativity. She may not have meant to imply that increased revenue is an acceptable excuse for overt racism, but that is how the Players Union and some of its members interpreted her words. Naturally, the backlash Engelbert received caused her to clarify her remarks and walk back part of what she said. To be clear, there is absolutely no place for hate or racism of any kind in the WNBA or anywhere else. Well, that's nice to say, but actions speak louder than words.
There's no doubt about it. The players were disappointed in how Cathy Engelbert handled this moment. And what they really wanted her to say was just flat out that this racism, homophobia, misogyny that a lot of the players are experiencing is not okay.
Fans can become fanatical and do despicable things. And speaking of despicable, Angel even alleges that some fans have made AI-generated images of her, depicting her without clothes on, and sent them to her family members.
After the season, and when I was in my press conference and I was talking about being sexualized, like, I guess people thought that was like, because I post pictures in my bathing suits. No, like, multiple occasions, people have made AI pictures of me, like, naked, literally.
Really?
They have sent it to my family members. My family members are like, uncles are sending it to me like,
no.
Are you naked on Instagram? It sucks to see that.
Now that is truly horrible. Not only are fans spreading fake images of her online, but they are involving her family members in it for no good reason other than to harm Angel. So no wonder she dislikes Caitlin's fan base. If someone did the same thing to Caitlin, they would be up in arms over it. Some have even tried to argue that Angel asked to be sexualized by the way she dresses and the things that she posts on Instagram. Angel isn't the only player who has had to deal with a ton of hate and fan backlash. Even Alyssa Thomas had to speak out about the racial comments she had been hearing.
I think in my 11-year career, I've never experienced the racial comments from the Indiana Fever fan base. We had her face on a serious matter that happened in this world, and it's unacceptable, honestly. And there's no place for it, and we've been professional throughout the whole entire thing, but I've never been called the things that I've been called on social media, and there's no place for it. And basketball is headed in a great direction, but nah, we don't want fans that are going to degrade us and call us racial names and something needs to be done.
Part of the issue is that the media leaned into the racial tension between Caitlin and Angel fans in order to get more clicks and views. Although that strategy did work, it has now created this hateful environment. On top of that, Engelbert's failure to solve this issue has been disappointing. In fact, things have only gotten more heated as the season went on. Connecticut wing DeJounte Carrington posted a screenshot of an email she received after she inadvertently poked Clark in the eye in Game 1. The email called her horrendous and vile names and even threatened to do awful things to her.
This was definitely a missed opportunity by the commissioner to really denounce the disrespectful discourse and its impact on the players. Now, I'm someone who talks about these amazing players, and my mentions are in shambles. I can only feel and empathize for the players that are actually playing the game. These types of comments that they receive after games are truly out of bounds.
Phoenix Mercury center Brittany Griner spoke out about how there needs to be a uniform harassment policy in the league.
There's new fans, but how do you appreciate the new fans without all the noise that's coming with them?
I appreciate the new fans that sit there and yell racial slurs at myself, my teammates, and the people that I play against. Because yeah, those might be opponents, but those are friends too. You know, like they don't deserve that.
Now, when you compare how the NBA deals with such incidents, you can see a clear difference. There have been a ton of incidents involving superstars like LeBron James and Russell Westbrook enforcing their power to get aggressive fans kicked out of the game. There have also been incidents where the NBA has looked into what fans have said and then given them lifetime bans. This shows that the league has their players' backs. However, WNBA players do not feel the same thing. New York Liberty star Breanna Stewart, who also addressed Engelbert's comments after their win over the Dallas Wings.
It's kind of disappointing to hear because, you know, the way that the fans have surged, and especially behind Kaylin and Angel coming to this league, but also bringing like a race aspect to a different level. And, you know, there's no place for that in our sport. And I think that's really it, is we want our sport to be inclusive for race, you know, gender, and really a place where people can be themselves.
The reality is that hate can never be fully eradicated. However, some steps can be taken. For one, teams can control who and what is brought into their arenas. Also, Engelbert can hire someone who has the expertise and skill to help the league navigate the intersectionality of race, culture, sexuality, and misogyny. Now, these might seem like small steps, but over time, they can be viewed as building blocks. But for now, it is clear that the WNBA is facing a big-time crisis, and so far, the WNBA commissioner is failing in her role and losing the trust of her players.